Especially here in the UAE, people spend money like crazy on things that you do not need and are not going to make a difference to your company. So watch where you're spending your money. And I mean, that was easy for me. I grew up in a family with 11 people, 9 kids and my
Two
parents.
right?
And, there wasn't a lot of money being splashed around. We were well taken care of. We had everything we needed, but there was, you weren't spending money on anything frivolous. Unless you went out and made your own money, and then you buy what you want.
From her early years in the armed forces to building a swimwear and activewear brand, our next guest's journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. Maureen shows that with discipline, integrity, and commitment, you can build a successful and resilient life. Her career, spanning from serviceship to entrepreneurship and being an author, shows that with discipline and grace, you can live a growing and successful business in the UAE. I'm just very curious to understand your time at the Canadian Armed Forces. Mm-hmm. What was that like?
I had a really good 12 years with the Air Force. Going through the basic training, the boot camp and all that. I really loved that. I found that very exhilarating. It didn't bother me at all. I mean, I think we started with maybe 80 women or something. Not even 80, no, maybe 40 women or something like that. And we ended up getting down to graduating probably about 10.
Wow.
So
okay.
it was, it was tough, but I just really loved it. And then going into the training on the aircraft itself, that was great. And then getting posted to different bases around Canada, working on the Hercules aircraft, and also then working on the Chinook helicopter for a few years. So yeah, I got to see the world. We went up to the Arctic a lot. It was different. It's different. It's not just a job. It's a life. You're sort of committed. Yeah. They can call you out at any time. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time there.
So when I think about boot camp, is it typically what you see in movies, an intensive where you carry weights, you go up a ladder, you crawl under the mud?
Yeah.
Okay, it's an actual boot camp to begin with.
Yeah, you have to start. That's the very first thing you do when you join.
Okay.
Is you have to do 3 months of that. So up at like 5 a.m., maybe even 4, maybe even 3 or 2, depending if they so decide.
Yeah. So it's been an intensive, you said 12 years in the armed forces.
Yes.
What do you think are some powerful lessons that you've learned being in the armed forces?
I think that you just keep going. That is one that has stuck with me. You just keep going. I went hiking with my son last summer in Wales, and it was a little more than I was expecting, and a little more than what he was expecting as well. But I was just I was tired. We had our packs because we went from hostel or little B&B. We'd hike all day and that, but I was just one foot in front of the other, just keep going. But it was such a good time. We had such a good time. So that is an important thing as well. I learned about, checklists, especially now with my business and how to keep things organized, how to do policies and procedures, those sorts of things. And to be useful with my hands, I'm not afraid to tackle things, at home or, I'm going to my sister to help her with her new apartment. And she's like, I got some shelves to put together and I've got pictures to hang.
Hands-on,
Hands-on. So I can use all the tool, any tool, big, powerful tools or just small hand tools. It doesn't matter. So it just gave me that confidence that you can do it. Of course you can do it.
When we talk about starting your own company in the UAE, I mean, you've been doing this for now 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And when I was driving by here, I noticed that there are so many signs that free zones have of starting a company.
Yes.
I imagine that starting a company is very easy. Starting, with the documentation, with bank statements, they promise to do it within 2-3 days.
Yeah.
But I think what's more difficult is not only starting it, maintaining it for year on year and making a profit.
Yes.
So you've been in the business space for 20 plus years. You've been running it successfully. It's been growing year on year. What's your secret?
Knowing what works and what doesn't work, and stop doing what doesn't work and do more of what is working within the company. I think, and I am guilty of this as well, especially when you're first starting. You hire people because you know them and you trust them and you like them. And I think, I belong to an organization called Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a worldwide organization, but they have a chapter here. And I think, whenever that comes up, it's always like, you can't keep using, and maybe you can, it depends on how things are working, but a lot of times your brother-in-law might not be the best person for that
the
job. Aunt Susie might be better in a certain thing within the company, but she really likes that, and you don't want to hurt her feelings. I would say people is the biggest thing that you have to get right. And there's, I've done a lot of different with EO. We go on. They have all this learning. They bring in people in that, and one of the biggest things is your people, and getting that right, and not feeling guilty and bad about letting somebody go. Because if somebody's coming in and they're dragging their feet, coming in and they're sitting down and they're not that happy doing what they're doing, they can't be very fulfilled. What kind of a life is that? You're actually, as hard as it is, that instant, you're actually doing them a favor by getting, saying, it's time to go. I'm sure there's something else out there for you. And then you bring on somebody, and now you realize, once you've let people go, okay, what do you really want? What is that type of person you're looking for? And it's about having those people who come in and they are accountable and they want to work, and they will follow policies and procedures. They're motivated, and that is a big thing.
Makes a difference.
It does. And I think for me, that is key. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's key, is getting those right, what they say is getting the right people on the bus and sitting in the right seats on the bus. Because maybe you have somebody who you think, I hired them for sales, but actually they're much better in marketing. You really like them. They're still motivated. They're still keen, but they're just not the salesperson. Move them to marketing and you'll probably see that things, go there. But, I think just keep going and keep trying things. And if something's not working, even though you might be like, oh no, I really want this to work, but it's just not working, you got to stop,
And reflect.
And reflect, like, what is it about that? And sometimes it's just an emotional attachment to it. You have to, you still have to have a lot of emotion when you run your company, but you have to be practical as well, and it's about finding that balance, I think.
I think in terms of many entrepreneurs struggle, I think in finding the right people, like you said, it's what they get a CV, or they look on LinkedIn, they speak to somebody once, twice, maybe 4 or 5 times for an hour or less. How do you gauge? I mean, there's so many of these tests that you can do. How do you gauge that the person at the beginning, before having them on, would be potentially the kind of right fit or a good fit for your company? That's tough.
It is. It's very tough. And especially nowadays, people are writing their resumes with ChatGPT based on your advertisement of what you're looking for.
They tailor it.
And, I've gone back and looked at CVs after somebody has left, and I'm like, whoa, this is not the same person that I hired. That's pretty obvious. But we have a probably a 4-step process.
Okay.
So it's weeded through just by keywords or whatever, which doesn't seem to work much anymore because of ChatGPT. Then there's a phone call.
Okay.
Then if that phone call goes well, there's a online interview. With and everything is a step by step. It's a like a process and a checklist. It is like, okay, depending on the department, you ask them certain questions and how they react, and then if that goes well, then they're invited in for an in-person interview. I usually come in, if I'm not there for the whole interview, depending on who it is. If it's management, I'm there for sure.
Yeah.
But if it's not, I will pop in and say hello and just ask them a few questions, more, on the personal side of things, because I want to see how they are as a person,
yeah.
because I believe that if you get the right person, they can learn things along the way. Just because somebody has a degree in a certain field doesn't mean they're competent in that.
Or qualified for the role.
Qualified for the role. Then we have probation period, which we then assess, and we have a mid probation meeting halfway through that, and we go through things, what's working, what's not working, and then we have an end probation meeting and see that. And I find that if you stick to that, there's always somebody who maybe you've had for a number of years who gets a little bit lazy and a little bit relaxed.
Yeah.
And, if new people are coming in, they're like, oh, I know the ropes around here. I'll just push some of my duties over to you. You do get that still. People are human. They will take the path of least resistance. It's about spotting it and nipping it in the bud and trying to rectify it. But people I said to someone the other day, if I start another business, it would just be me, no people.
So talking about the business that you started, would you want to maybe go through what company it is and what was your inspiration behind starting it?
Okay, so Coega Sunwear was born almost 22 years ago in January.
2004.
2004, exactly. So we moved here. So we came from Canada, where you spend maybe a couple of months in the sun, and not the sunshine, I wouldn't say that, but at the beach or pool. Summers are not as long. And we moved here in January, actually, and, from minus 40 where we were to here where it's like, plus 20 and it's and we were spending a lot of time at the pool and beach with our boys. And we have very fair skin and we burn quite easily in the sun. So I started making. I've always sewn. I started sewing my own clothes when I was like 13. Okay. So I know how to sew, and I sourced some swimwear fabric, and I started making myself long sleeve, like rash guard tops, making suits for the boys, and then I made these. My second son was born here. And he was just learning to walk, and the surface around the pool is hot and slippery.
Warm. Yeah.
And the sand is hot. And I was like, I would watch these little kids running, and because it's so hot, they're running, and then they slip and fall and hit their head. And, as a mother, you're like, no, I need to do something about this. So I made these little slip-resistant, heat-resistant shoes for him. Okay. And in my sewing room, I just kind of crafted it with some different things. And I had to have a few prototypes, because, and it talks about it in the book, actually, just what worked and what didn't, and changing things. And then finally I had a good, prototype. And he was wearing them. And when we were at the pool and beach, everybody was commenting on our outfits. Oh, my goodness, where did you get that? And at that time, because we got here in 2001, January 2001, or 2000, sorry, there was nothing like that on the shelves in the stores.
The market at all.
I think there was like Body Glove had rash guards for men, so not like very attractive for women. And I'm, because I sew, I like to tailor things to shape the body to make sure we are, it's flattering and we're looking as good as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Everyone wants to look good, So I was making that, and people were commenting, oh, gosh, you're the best dressed family at the pool here, and we spent a lot of time at the pool and beach. It's a great way to entertain them.
Yeah.
So I was, and they were like, would you make me some? And I was like, I don't want to do that, because before I came here, I had a sewing business in Canada where I was making like dresses, curtains, military tuxedos for friends who needed them, with all the stripes and the ribbons and the satin and the cummerbunds and everything. I was sewing those for them, and I just found it stressful because you're making something for one person. So I was like, no, no. Anyway, and then I was like, well, people really like this, so maybe I should look at starting a business. And I went, at that time, there was only Yellow Pages. Like, where do you, how do you even begin? Where do you source things? Where do you have stuff manufactured? So there was the Yellow Pages, which wasn't that big back then. I mean, it's like that big.
Yeah.
Whereas the White Pages were that big. And in Canada, it's different. The White Pages are that big and the Yellow Pages are that big. So I was looking through the Yellow Pages, trying to see where to get manufacturing done, because that was the biggest thing. We were able to find suppliers of the fabric. So I ended up, I saw some in Jebel Ali. So I went to Jebel Ali. I don't even know how I got in through the gate. And I was just driving around inside Jebel Ali, the free zone, and looking at places. And I went in and I, went into a couple of places. And they looked at it and they were like, yeah, sure,
can do it.
Yeah, we'll do it. And I started with very small quantities and only a few items back then. And then, year after year, you would kind of see what's missing in the market. Okay, how can I expand on this? One of the things that I did the first 5 years of the company, it was a one-woman show. I mean, I wanted to, my husband is a pilot with Emirates, so I wanted to be home and be available for my boys, do the school run with them, because my husband was often gone. So I wanted the business to work around me and my lifestyle, and my family's lifestyle. So I would drop them off in the morning, and then I did all of the, the sourcing for the fabric. Well, my husband helped me with some of that online. I ordered the fabric, figured out how much I needed. I made the prototypes and the patterns for the pieces. I went around and did sales calls, knocking on doors for a long time. And I oversaw the manufacturing. I wasn't, out there every day. I just went to look at it because I didn't have any staff then. It was just me.
For the first 5 years,
Yeah, it was just me. And then the other thing I would do is I would do the deliveries. So I would pick up the boxes, take them to the stores. I would unbox them with the staff at the stores, restock the shelves, and talk to the staff at the stores. What are people saying? Do they like it? Do they not like it? And they were like, people really like it, and the local people like it, but they would like it if you made it a little longer, a little looser, a little this, a little that. And so I'd be like, okay. I'll go back to my sewing room and make a prototype and show it to them, and they'd be like, yep, that's it. Okay, we'll take that in 3 colors, And so that's how the brand grew. It was me doing the market research, all that. And so it was, step by step. I mean,
I think the first 5 years that you said, from what you were saying, involved a lot of grit. To actually go to different manufacturers, to speak to the people in the store, to source the fabrics, and doing this on your own. I think that's missing in a lot of entrepreneurs today. They think perhaps, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the journey of entrepreneurship or starting a business is easy.
Yeah.
I've started my own company. Yeah. It's going to be an easy road ahead.
Yeah.
So how did you get that inbuilt confidence to prove that, look, I'm going to start something, it's going to grow, and I'll do it myself, at least for the first couple of years?
Yeah. I mean, I think that grit and the confidence comes from the military. And also, I grew up in a family of 9 children. And it was like it was all hands on deck every day. You were doing something, you were helping out, and you were not giving up, and you were finding a solution, and you just kept going. So I think from my family and then into the military and then here. And I wasn't afraid to try anything. Like back then, in 2004, going and setting up a company, I was one woman in a sea of men. I would look
Yeah.
around, there would not be one other woman in these places trying to set up their company in the JAFSA-free zone,
The different government departments,
the LOB or LOB 14, or it might have been called JAFSA 14, or going to get your
Trade license.
not the trade license, but your import code and all that. You had to go down to the big port, the other one, I can't remember, on the other
JAFSA?
end, not JAFSA, no, the other side.
Port Rashid? No.
Port Rashid.
Yeah.
You had to go in there to do it in there, and then you had to go, so it was, it was.
So in terms of the design, you said you got a lot of customer feedback. You made changes to it, and you kept on innovating.
Yeah.
How do you think, where did you get your inspiration from? Was it primarily from your customers? Was it your own experience on how to design the different items, the different styles? How did you get that?
Well, as I mentioned, I've been making my own clothes since I was about 13. And if I followed a pattern, I always modified it to, suit me more, or something that I liked. I just, I knew how I could alter it. I knew that I could make changes to suit me better. And for the look that I was looking for. So when I started making stuff for Coega, it was stuff that I liked. And yes, I could make it, I could modify it for other people, but in the end, it's still something I liked. I never really went out. They say this, about people going into business. Sometimes people will go into business with, okay, what do people want? What do people want? I will do that for them. But my philosophy is, what do I like? I will make it. And, something that my family is proud to wear, something that my brothers and sisters will wear, friends will wear and talk about and be proud of it, but it's something that I've created from inside. I don't know, things just come to me sometimes, I could be out on the street and see a bus go by with a color combination, and I might be like, ooh, that's nice.
It's from the heart.
Or you might see a little, it could be anything that I'm always looking around and, oh, look at that. Oh, a bicycle. Oh, a little bicycle. Isn't that, that would be kind of good in a pattern, or you just pick it up. And like I said, it's something you have to like. I mean, wouldn't it be horrible if you were creating things that
you didn't like?
You didn't even like, but it brings in the money.
Yeah, customers like it.
The customers really want it, but I actually think it's crap, I mean.
That wouldn't be authentic.
No. And I think that's when they say you sell out, your
Your core product.
Yeah.
I was thinking for the first 5 years when you did everything on your own, day in and day out, and as the business grew, more of your time went to the business, and it was just you for the first half decade.
Yeah.
Were there moments where you felt that you probably need help with delegating or doing tasks, but you ended up doing it on your own?
Yeah.
How was that like? And then what advice would you give for other people starting a company when they reach that stage, when things get very tough, when there's a lot to do?
Yes, there's a lot to do. And you do feel overwhelmed. And then you've got a family as well, or other things that you have to do. What I did is I started very slowly by hiring people, friends, part-time.
Okay.
Because I couldn't afford full-time. And they didn't want full-time. A lot of them were mums.
Yeah.
So, and they had the school run as well. And it was, just, 5 hours a week, 10 hours a week. The first person that I hired part-time was my finance person, because I'm very creative. That's my thing. And logistics and, production and all that. Those are my strengths. The bookkeeping, I always said, and the accounting, I always said, as soon as I can afford it, I will hire somebody to come in. And she would just come, once a month and do the
books.
The books.
Yeah.
And then I would, then it was some marketing. And so it was that way. So it didn't cost a lot. And it was people who had some good skills, but they didn't want to commit full-time, and I didn't want somebody full-time. So that's how I started. And then once I realized that, part-time people, who want to take summers off is not going to work anymore. I need to actually start hiring
Full-time.
full-time people. Make the commitment and just do it full-time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So step by step, and
Yes.
then based on the different skill sets of different people, you got them part-time, and then as the company grew,
Yeah.
you started getting people full-time.
Yes, yes. And we had a combination, some part, some full. Now everybody is full-time. Although I do have two consultants who used to work with me full-time who've moved out of Dubai.
Right.
And they do some part-time work with me to help. I have one who does business development.
Okay.
And another one who is high-end finance.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of the first 5 years or even 10 years, were there moments where you felt that you maybe want to give up,
Oh,
but then you didn't, and then you
Yes.
persevered?
Yes, absolutely. I think every person, every entrepreneur will go through that. I'm done. I've had enough.
I don't want to do it anymore. Yeah.
You know, but my husband would always be like, just take a break. Take a break. Go and go to the spa or something for the afternoon. It's okay.
It's
Nothing.
okay.
Nobody's gonna die. And that's the thing. We think like, oh my gosh, if I don't get this done, the sky's gonna fall in. Chicken Little again. So it's just about taking a step back.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the company's growth, you started off with 1 or 2 product lines, and now
Yeah.
you've expanded.
Yes.
So take us through that journey of how it started and what are you now in terms of the product range, the designs of Coega?
Well, originally it was more ladies and children, small children. Now we do everything from babies to young children to youth to men and ladies. And we've just, it's swimwear for everybody. So everybody and everybody. We do the whole range of the sizes. We try and make things for all, different people. Just so everybody can feel good and when they go to the beach or the pool, because let's face it, when you feel good, you look good. And when you feel good, you look great. And I mean, that's an old commercial from the 70s. It was about hair shampoo or something. But let's face it, everybody wants to just feel comfortable and confident. So we try and make things for all the different, we make from bikinis to burkinis and every step in between. So, maybe some people think, oh, modesty is only for cultural reasons. Well, that's not true. I would wear a long sleeve rash guard. I may not wear a head cover, but people say, oh, that's modest. That's not modest. Well, it people don't want to have their whole body exposed. My brother recently, I saw him and he was wearing one of my rash guards, and he's like, look how good this looks on me. He was just so proud of himself. He's 70 years old and he was just like, look at me, but if he goes with a bare chest, he just feels, self-conscious, and he's not, people, yeah, so.
I get what you're saying, and I think you cater to every single type of body type and preference as well.
Yeah, yeah. Because it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
When I see people, I'm not, like I said before, you do something that you really like and you are, so that's the thing for me is I want everybody to feel comfortable and confident at the beach, I think, people now can go. There wasn't a lot of choices
Back then.
You either wore a bikini or one piece, or you didn't wear, and there was no other choices. That was it in the stores. Now people can go in and they have a choice.
There's a variety, right?
There's a variety. Pick and choose what you want. Everybody's different. I have a friend who has varicose veins, so she'll wear the 3/4 tights or even full tights, but she'll wear a bikini top.
So that portion is not, I get it. Okay.
Exactly. So it just depends on the person. Somebody might have, oh, my stomach, I don't like my muffin top, and they want to cover their stomach, but they're okay to show their shoulders and their legs or something,
So it's an individual preference, and now you
is.
have that choice in the market.
You
Okay.
do. Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Before we move on to the wonderful book that you've written, I wanted to touch upon the point about finance you were talking about, where when the time came you hired somebody to do this full time. What do you think has been the biggest financial lesson you've learned in your life when starting the company?
Don't spend money needlessly. Watch where you're spending your money. People want to start a business. They want to have a big flashy office. They want to have the leather sofas. I mean, even to this day, my office is a little bit, I'm like, oh, I think we need to do something. But I find that, especially here in the UAE, people spend money like crazy on things that you do not need and are not going to make a difference to your company. So watch where you're spending your money. And I mean, that was easy for me. I grew up in a family with 11 people, 9 kids and my parents.
Right.
And, there wasn't a lot of money being splashed around. We were well taken care of. We had everything we needed, but there was, you weren't spending money on anything frivolous unless you went out and made your own money. And then you buy what you want. But so I think that is really important. Watch where the money is going and have somebody who is reasonable and who will give you the straight goods of you're spending too much on this or you're spending too much on that, or, you need to find somebody different, or, you need to increase your prices, stuff like that.
I think that kind of feedback and expertise with money and business is so important because that's one of the reasons why businesses thrive over different years and they succeed for so many years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at there's I don't know how many, what the ratio is exactly, but say 1 in 5 business, not even one, it might be 1 in 100 businesses make it past the first
couple of years mark. Yeah.
And then how many of those drop off to the 5, and then how many of those to the 10, to the 20? Like, it's staying power, and you have to be careful. You have to be mindful. You have to be watching what's going on.
And it's being resilient that way, not only in terms of money, in terms of your product, customer feedback, because to last and grow that long, that requires a special kind of consideration and understanding your business as a basic.
You have to stay relevant. You have to stay relevant. You can't be making, I mean, I must say some of the stuff we were making 20 years ago is still selling really well. You might make it in different colors. You might add a frill. You might make it longer, make it shorter. It's still the same thing, but you're always, looking at how can I tweak it a little bit. Yeah, you have to innovate. You have to be always trying to be ahead of the crowd, and then you see, oh, look, okay, I guess we are the trendsetters. Look what they're making now.
I imagine that writing a book is a major goal and bucket list in somebody's life. What is the process? I mean, at the back of my mind, I think, is there a manuscript? Is there a publisher to get it printed? How does one actually go about writing and publishing a book?
Yeah. It's funny you say that. A lot of people do want to write a book. It was never something that I kind of aspired to do. I was approached earlier this year by somebody who represented Joe Foster. And Joe Foster is the co-founder of Reebok. And he writes these books, and he brings entrepreneurs, he writes chapters with entrepreneurs, and it's about thriving, surviving and thriving. So I was approached that way. So I kind of had a bit of an easier route than trying to do something on your own. And I do get asked sometimes, would you like to, write something here or there? And a lot of times it's like, no, I'm not interested. But Joe Foster, the co-founder of Reebok, and then I started looking at his story. Reebok was okay. It was good. It was, bouncing along. And then in the 80s, Jane Fonda started wearing Reebok's gear, doing her exercise videos.
Famous workout videos.
Yes, her famous workout videos. And Reebok, the sales just skyrocketed, and I just found it so... it was like, that would be somebody that I would want to work with for sure. And I had, was coming through town for his 90th birthday.
Wow.
And I got to meet him in person and talk to him, and such a lovely man. And it was just so nice sitting down with him and talking, and he interviewed me for the book. So I do one of the chapters in there. There's other co-authors in there from mostly sport background. So, and they are he's looking for people, certain types of people for his books. It might not be somebody who's starting a chocolate factory. It would be somehow related in some way to his journey over the
I
years.
understand.
Yeah.
I remember the Jane Fonda workout videos. My mom used to watch
Yeah,
these
yeah,
videos in the early
yeah.
90s. And then I used to remember on TV, these
Yes.
videos used to play. So I didn't know it was a Reebok shoe, but now
Yeah.
it's good to know.
Yeah. So it's I used to do those videos.
And they were really good workouts,
They
especially
were
at home, that
They
you could do.
were. Yeah, it was the first kind of at-home thing you could do. It was great.
And
It
I
was
think she
great.
revolutionized a movement back then.
She did, because before that, yeah, it wasn't. There was nothing like that at all.
At that level or at that scale.
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
What has been the biggest lesson you've learned co-authoring this book?
I think just to be genuine, about things, and not. I mean, when I told my story, I wasn't trying. It's not to impress anybody or that. I'm just telling from the heart, because I think there's a lot of people out there who think, oh, I can't be an entrepreneur. I don't have this or that. But I think we all have a little bit of something in us that we can do this. It's what we decide and choose. And I came from a very, I'm not going to say plain, but I didn't come from money. I was the first person to start a business in my family. Everybody else went to university and got corporate jobs or government jobs, or were in the military and that kind of thing. So it's, it's not like I come from a family where everybody's an entrepreneur and there's family businesses that are 3-4 generations or anything like that.
You're self-made.
I'm just a basic person who just saw something and just decided to give it a try and stick with it. So I think that is a lesson right there, that you don't have to be anything, special. It's just, I think the biggest thing is you have to have the staying power.
Resilience.
And not give up, yeah.
I think that's a very important lesson. You're definitely not basic. You're much, much more than that. So, Maureen, this has been an insightful journey. Thank you for sharing about your journey with the armed forces, your business journey, your authorship, as well as very practical steps and advice. I'll certainly remember about nature, about exercise, and the sky's not about to fall. This has been a very great conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome, Akash. Thank you for inviting me. It's been a lovely morning.
Same here.